Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Rebellion.
Yes, this is the political side of the rebellion, the normal side, I guess, you know. But today we're doing a little bit of a 9/11 tribute kind of thing. I personally spent about 3 years looking into just 9/11 way back in the aughts and the zeros now. You know, between like 2003 and 2006 or 7, and you know, it's just a deep rabbit hole if you go down there. Now it's kind of popular to sort of make fun of the whole thing, but honestly, it's just because everyone sort of knows it's true and they just lost hope, and I totally get it, but it doesn't make it not true, and it's about waking up and not taking it anymore at some point, which is leaving this beast system, really, you know? At some point leaving, hello, at some point the off-grid thing and like working at home, working at home, if you're capable of doing that, going off-grid is going to be like the answer to getting away from all this stupid corporations and all this crap. But there's going to be a little drama, you know? I'm sure before then, you know. But like, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, 9/11 because I listened to it for a long, long time. And first of all, I'm just going to show you two things about it. Just two things. The first thing is just witness after witness after witness on the day of 9/11 at the site of 9/11 talking about how they heard explosions, okay? Because the thing is, there's never been a building that fell into its own footprint unless it was professionally demolished. It's just impossible.
At least not that perfectly. And again, guys, you know, feel free to refute this or whatever. You know, she and I are not saying this is 100% unbelievable fact. It's just our belief based on what others who are actually experts in their field who were on scene at the time have said. And clearly, for everyone that's going to say this is absolute truth or going to say this is absolute bullshit, okay? But when you look at the things that presaged it, so to speak, when you look at the number of television shows or documents or things that talk about just such an occurrence or just such an actuality, even in terms of the specificity of what occurred and then it actually occurs, yeah, it kind of tends to give you pause for thought. So again, you know, grain of salt, everybody out there who might be getting angry, and we have nothing but sympathy for love for those. But we're not saying it was all bullshit that happened. The buildings got destroyed.
They did.
Planes flew into them.
Planes flew into the buildings and they fell down.
Malefically.
Because listen, there are some conspiracy.
Another motivating factor behind it, and were there actually possibly explosives in the tower?
Yeah.
Because regardless of what you may, again, as an empiricist, I'm not, this person said this. No. What can I quantifiably, verifiably see and prove?
Well, listen, I'm just saying.
The explosions, these things look much, if you parallel that with the controlled demolitions, it looks an awful lot.
You can see each floor going out, like the beam going out in each floor, one by one by one. It goes down perfectly. 3 buildings do that? Well, then why are we wasting money on demolition crews when we could just clearly knock them down and they'll just go down in a row, whatever you do to them, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, I'll show you some videos of the day, or I'll just show you some people talking and I'll describe the videos.
And there's also, I don't want to take it now, but there was a video where something similar happened where a plane struck a tower. It did not collapse, did not think there was a great big horrible hole in it. Yes.
And Building 7's when they always bring up because it did not get hit by a plane and it's gone. It fell for over just fire, which has never happened before or since. And they come up with ways to explain it, but I'm telling you, at the time, a lot of scientists actually spoke out saying that was not possible. There's a one I found on here saying that they found thermite, you know, nanothermite at the scene, and that it was very clearly, this was a French thing, because the French, you know, they have no bones about exposing conspiracies in the U.S. Yeah, what do they say? Oh, he was there. Listen, I know you were there. I'm just saying, like, other people were there. I'm going to show you right now. In fact, let me have the thing.
Wait. Yeah, well, that's the kind of basis for a movie there, Mark. It's a good question. It's actually an absolutely perfectly relevant question. Where did the gold go? Okay? Because I'm always pointing out to her, like, you see this shit in movies all the time. Like, you'll see guys being honking gold. Fucking gold is heavy, guys. It's really fucking heavy, okay? The average gold bar, you see that thing's like, what, 20, 30 pounds? Okay? It's not like you see in cartoons and TV shows where they're just like humming them shit like but don't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there are tens and hundreds of thousands
a lot of stuff went missing. A lot of stuff went missing.
How did it go? You know what I mean? And yeah, gold melts, not fairly easily with high temperature, but it would have been just a bunch of golden slag down there. Nothing. What happened? Where did it go?
Exactly. But they did find nanothermite.
Yeah.
They did find that. Let me have the thing. We'll start with, these are some firefighters.
So thank you for that, Mark. That's
thank you. It's a great, there was a lot of stuff went missing from the towers. And they took out insurance on the towers right before they went down, like right
oddly,
before.
some people conveniently just weren't there that day or scheduled a trip.
A lot of people who were big high-ups weren't there that day. Okay. These are the 9/11 first responder firefighters. Probably a lot of these guys are dead, I bet. But I'm going to turn this on, and the first people to talk are firefighters.
What happened? He was in an explosion. He was in the lobby, and then the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed.
What was the fight?
Horrible. The whole building just collapsed inside the lobby.
That was secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the...
Yeah, definitely a secondary explosion. We was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole fucking thing blew. And we just collapsed and everybody inside the lobby.
So was this first tower coming down secondary?
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one was terrible. Then there was a third one, too, after that one. Yeah. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And then you just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
What you tell me is that there was flooding or whatever hit the building in the secondary explosion.
There was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And then the whole lobby collapsed on the lobby.
Damn, after that?
So just everybody tried to work their way out.
It's really quick to describe these guys. They're covered in dust and dirt and blood. It's somewhere where the guy has
They're two
blood on his
FDNY
face.
guys. They're two firefighters. The actual title is 9/11 Eyewitnesses to WTC Demolitions Explosions.
Yeah.
And the channel is capital letters INODEUX. INODEUX.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to check it out for something, it's 27 minutes. We're not going to run through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just put some snippets out there.
We're going to put some snippets off throughout the thing because there's several. But these guys are the first responders. They're talking about hearing several explosions in a row. They're not the only ones. They're like just the first ones. Like I'll go past them.
We were in the building when the thing collapsed. We were on this drive here for long. People don't understand. There may be more. Any one of these fucking buildings can blow up. This ain't done yet.
See, there's this one guy from the first. He's convinced.
People had to understand that we didn't know what was going on. We were still in reaction mode. Okay, we didn't know how many terrorists there were, what kind of people were. For all we knew, it was this massively coordinated attack, which had cars and buildings and everything you could think of, just loaded with bombs. So there was absolutely no reason to believe there wasn't another explosion. That this wasn't coordinated with it. These people hadn't.
They weren't being conspiracy. They didn't know what had happened.
They were just
reacting. So they were just saying what they had witnessed right at the moment. Yeah.
I'm afraid these whole buildings can come down.
Yeah, because he's thinking that they're all full of bombs. That's what he's saying. That he thinks now that all these buildings might have bombs. They might all go down.
And let's not forget, earlier. Well, it was 10 years before, someone had done just that thing. Tried to put in a truck, tried to blow up the World Trade Center, trying to do all shit. So it wasn't like this was the very first time anything had happened, or there had never been an attack on anything in New York before.
Yeah.
So they're kind of reacting as they can, given the conditions as they are.
Okay.
Nothing no more. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside of the building. I don't think you're getting any worse from this.
Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
That's an explosion that you hear. What you just heard in the background is a video from 9/11 with an explosion. It just, minimum that's when one of the pylons went out.
Yeah.
At the least, okay, but that's probably
Don't worry about me. You need to make calls right now.
hours after the attack, many smaller explosions rumbled through downtown.
Hours after the attack, many smaller explosions rumbled through downtown. I didn't mean to go off of it.
To be fair, there were, gas lines going off.
Yeah.
Like you always have. Anytime you have something blown up, you're going to have electricity exposed. You're going to have gas exposed. And when those two mix, kaboom,
Yeah.
especially a place like New York. But
exactly.
We can only guess what is going on.
I got an eyewitness who said there was an explosion on floor 7 and 8.
Eyewitnesses say there was an explosion on floor 7 and 8.
7 and 8, opposite the time people said an explosion.
The secondary explosion. We had numerous people covered with dust from the secondary explosion. There was another explosion on the tower.
Another explosion on the tower.
What appears to be a complete collapse. What's involved in the secondary explosion?
In the lobby of Brazil, a bomb had exploded there. All the glass was taken out. They were 10 foot by 10 foot marble panels that were wood walls. They were loose from the wall of the trade center. I went around by the freight elevator and I could see it was just blown. It was just a giant 30th floor. We hear another explosion.
So he's saying that he went to the freight elevator on a lower floor and it was blown out with an explosion below where the planes were at.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, we don't even have to go on and on and on with this. I'm just like, it's literally endless. It's a half hour of just all these people, different people, who saw stuff,
It's been just shy of 20 years now. It's 2 decades since there's generation. And there's a lot of people that, like any other significant event, didn't really grow up with it, didn't really have it in their purview, wasn't happening when they were alive, or old enough to give a shit. And like a lot of things, we just want to make sure that this doesn't just fade into woodwork. We know there's still too many people out there who are acutely aware of what happened and all the horror that surrounded it. And that's what we're mainly trying to point out. It's just that it was horrific. People died. Lots and lots and lots of Americans and just other guest citizens here, from other countries died horrifically, and for what? How? Why? And we just need to keep asking questions and poking and prodding and not being complacent and allowing it to happen because, I think we're all good people. We don't like to be shit disturbers. We don't like to ruffle too many feathers. We're actually kind of people that like to be relatively calm and if not complacent, allow things to proceed in their normal order. But when you have something so blatant thrown in your face, when you have this kind of horrible overshadowing corruption on such an amazing and massive scale, even if it's just the ideal of it, and there's something real about it, and just the idea of it behooves one to consider it and to start thinking about, wow, man, is this the world I want to live in? And who in my legislature, my Congress, do I need to talk to and find out about this? And again, blessings and kudos on all those who, from the respective safety of political, office, could have just said, oh, not my concern. Let me just kind of, blow this off or shuffle it off to somebody else. It's not my responsibility to bear. Who actually went out and said, no, I demand answers. Even if it's not my state, even if it's not my people. I want to know what the fuck happened here. And
we
why.
do know that they had intel, at least at this minimum, they had intel that there were planes that were going to hit the buildings before this. Minimum, that happened.
They knew that it was most likely a group of Saudis that had done this, that had very little to do with Iraq, and yet that's where they put the focus of the thing. Conveniently, they went in there. That's what it was, a big old hoop and cover drill. Hey guys.
Because there is something bigger to this. Now, if those of you who know about, programming, how they program people to make stuff happen, about 7 or 8 years before 9/11, a movie came out called Long Kiss Goodnight. It had Gina Davis in it. Gina Davis was a spy who had lost her memory and actually gotten lost in a fake spy identity. Okay, so, however, the main plot of it was that the World Trade Center was going to be destroyed by 2 planes hitting it and explosives, the whole thing that I'm describing with what actually happened, except that it was the CIA doing it because the Cold War had made them kind of irrelevant and they needed to kind of stir up some kind of issue to make sure that they could keep working. So it was like they were going to turn to terrorists and toward the Middle East and point. It was basically it was the plot of 9/11 was the plot of Long Kiss Goodnight. So like if you want to go watch that movie, it's actually a really good movie. Honestly, it's a great movie. It's one of my favorites, and it's all about 9/11. Like it's completely about 9/11. So it's like Neo, for instance, was born on 9/11/2001, but that's not even, like, the really interesting part is the mega sigil, okay? Everything in this reality that we live in, this 3D reality, can be used as a sigil. Your life has, like, its own symbols and its own things that work in certain ways, and some people have, their energy is such that they can be used, but that's not to do with this. This is the Trade Center. The two towers symbolize two twins, these divine twins who are two halves of God, okay? Who symbolize basically God and the devil, okay, or Jesus and the devil. And the destroying of the two towers symbolically destroys these two identities. And the rebuilding of it as one tower rebuilds it into one identity in the future, for the future. So there's this whole, like, magical aspect to it that's happening, you know, that right in front of you, you know, and we love symbolism, so we embrace the symbolism, and that's cool. That's actually a noble cause, but still, they knew and they wanted a bunch of people to die to make it happen. So, so there's that, okay? Basically, this whole thing, the 9/11 is what started the end of the old world, in a sense, you know? So much of who we were is gone because of the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act actually kind of gutted the Constitution in a lot of ways, because if you can be labeled as a terrorist, you can lose a lot of your rights immediately. And because of that and that over need for safety, we've slowly gotten into this thing where where we're losing our rights more and more and more. That's why we're at where we are at 2020. People are just ready to take it. They see it. Some people from the older, this is one of the reasons the older generation's upset about the masks, for instance, because it's like it symbolizes kind of the final straw for them, and I totally get it. I totally get it, you know. I do believe the masks are necessary, but I totally get it, okay? And the kids don't remember what it was like before, you know? He's cooking little potatoes for dinner. But, like, the kids don't remember what it was like before, okay? They don't remember when you had rights, okay? When I was a kid, I actually told off a cop one time. I was so surprised that I didn't get in trouble that, like, I could not believe it. It was like the most ridiculous shit.
Sorry, guys. Cooking dinner.
Yeah, he's cooking dinner.
Man, homies.
Yeah. So, listen, I'll show you some more of this stuff. This is, like, such good stuff. But if you get into it even deeper than this, I'm just showing you, like, basic stuff. Just stuff to make you question, because the point is, if you get into it really deep, it gets a little crazier, you know? But this whole thing is, like, clearly part of something bigger. This was the beginning of the end in a lot of ways.
It's a big old rabbit hole.
Okay?
So, yeah.
And then, like, Bush knew he was going to be hated. He had to. And then Obama was the clincher. Now, Obama, I love Obama. I actually think he was a great president, okay? But he didn't get a lot done, okay? And I'm pretty sure that's because he was a shill. Listen, he came up, he was a city planner.
Well, let's just say this, guys.
Okay.
One way or another.
Mike, what do you think?
No, I'm correcting with you. I totally agree with her. I'm not trying to cut her off, guys, and I apologize. He was absolutely a shill. It's just that people are getting upset. How dare you say this? How dare you say that? Guys, remember this. The president comes every 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all going to change, right? President of General Motors or General Electric or Rocket, they stay there for decades. Okay?
Yeah.
So you don't get on that, like, how dare you say that? Because sometimes there's such a thing as being a completely unknowing shill and just saying, for the sake of getting things done, you know, I'll kind of balance the needs of both things. And then by the time you get in, you find out that the water water's a lot deeper and darker than you thought it was.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're not in a puddle or a pond,
exactly.
man. You're in the fucking Mariana.
Yeah, that's the thing. They help you. They help you little by little by little, and they'll lift you up, and you don't question it because you're like, oh, I'm just the right person for the job, you know. Nobody.
You're going swimmingly.
You know, nobody questions it until like their kids are getting threatened and stuff like that. Okay. So, like, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, because I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a really cool guy. I think he was a good president, basically. But he didn't get a lot done because he didn't have the deeper connections, for one thing, that, like, somebody like Trump has, because he's been in business for a long time, and he knows his way around both sides.
Since the beginnings of civilization, it's been about networks.
Yeah.
That's the simple truth of this, you know?
So it's harder to get stuff done when you're basically are a new person. Yeah. He spent 2 years in the Senate, and he was a city planner before that. So it's like he was lifted almost out of nowhere, put into this position. This is why I'm saying he was, even though he was a good guy himself, he was used for a purpose, because they knew they could get him elected, okay? But he also has his name is Barack Hussein Obama. This was hugely triggering to a lot of people. His name alone was just hugely triggering to people.
Because after having gone, Barack, and taken out Saddam Hussein, and then having to admit that, yes, more likely than not, the very premise upon which we attacked was, in fact, incorrect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were still tens and hundreds of thousands of Americans, civilians, and soldiers, and sailors, and other military personnel that were like, well, I still went over there and I fought, and there was a lot of shit going on. And, you know, rightly so, they felt like perhaps this was dishonoring them. You know, this was casting an aspersion on them. This was saying that they had done something, you know, incorrectly, or even, you know,
exactly.
evil.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So a lot of people took it, and that's kind of the whole point of the name was that, like, geez, man, we go to all this trouble and time and effort and lose all these lives and go through all this fucking shit to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a guy with the same name as our president.
Yeah, and it really this is why the whole Muslim argument really flew with a lot of people. It just felt like it had to be true somehow, because his name, you know.
Because it's all about divide and conquer. And this is an example of just how far we've come since 2001 in terms of people's willingness to absolutely 100% just label someone, chuck them in there. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone's like, you know, a terrorist, and there's tons of them out there, and they're blowing shit up, yeah, that's it, man. I'm not having sympathies. Fuck that. But the ability to quickly label someone without any actual facts or proof, because that's what I'm saying, man. Before you render judgment on someone, I just got to have some facts or some evidence. You know what I mean? Show me the paperwork, man. Show me the jacket.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
Show me that this person is this or that, and yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Right on site.
But like,
there's far too many cases where they're like, oh, this kind of person or this kind of person. It's this divide and conquer mentality where we're all becoming more and more fearful and more scared and more hyped up, and we're ever more willing to sacrifice, you know, our liberty for our safety. And as Benjamin Franklin said, those who are willing to sacrifice, you know, liberty for safety deserve neither. Okay? I completely understand how people feel from both sides of the equation. I have been to Islamic consulates. I have drunk tea and imams. I understand the 5, you know, tenets of the Islamic religion, 5 pillars. Okay, have nothing against them. I think it's a wonderful religion. Okay, by the same token, there are plenty of those out there who, because of that religion, are more than willing to want to kill me or my girlfriend for a variety of reasons. Literally, just like, no, you must be executed. You are this and that and the other.
I mean, that's true though.
And I have no more sympathy for them than I do, you know, anything else trying to hurt me or attack me, and will act accordingly. But just because there are these little disparate sects, you know what I mean? And it just tends to come with the Abrahamic religions, guys. Let's be dead honest. You know what I mean? There's just as many people out there. You know, there's just as many. And I'm not going to plug in like this point. I could point out literally, yes, there are Jewish terrorist sects. Yes, there are Christian terrorist sects. And if you guys look around, you can find tons of them. I don't need to play the name. Go on the list and you'll find them. Okay? It doesn't mean you throw out the baby with the bathwater. It doesn't mean you hate people. It doesn't mean you judge them. It just means it's okay to have a somewhat jaundiced eye, but it still behooves us to try to be polite, right? And I just see it's all coming down like, oh, this against that, this against that. And that's exactly what they want. They want you marching in the streets, you know? And this is the other problem. We all truly feel like little kids now. We do, man. Most of us feel like children. We don't feel like adults in the sense that our parents felt like. My parents would feel, yeah, you know why? Because they weren't doing anything that much different, but everything around them reinforced their sense of it. And most importantly, what they had is what most of us really don't, a large sense of actual community. Okay? Back in the day, with the exception of people who were truly marginalized, you know what I mean, who had to march and protest just to get attention to their causes, right? Most people having a problem put on a suit and tie and went to a town hall meeting, you know, a city hall meeting, and basically bitched out their elected representatives, you know? But along the way, too many people became just either burnt by the corruption, you know, and just, I don't want to have to play this game just to get shit done in my town, city, or wherever, or, you know, they were actually kind of criminals themselves that had some dark shit going, and maybe I don't want to be, you know what I mean? And between the two of them, our ability as a nation to just kind of get together and, despite arguing, get shit done, kind of fell by the wayside. And now we're all like little kids in the schoolyard, just throwing dirt and kicking each other's shoes and screaming.
Honestly, Facebook just gives us a place to talk about shit when we should be talking about it in town halls.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
It's
but
just
really,
too easy to disconnect when you're, you know what I mean, when you have to face another man or look at them or see that actual human emotion in their face, which is the reason behind their reasoning. You know what I mean? It's so easy to be glib and go, oh, you're an idiot. You know, shit's like, look, man.
Instagram even more so.
Yeah. People will tell you the reality of their stories or why they felt the way
they
did.
Let me get back to what I was saying really quick. Okay, so they put a guy, probably a really nice guy with great intentions, you know, in office. They help him get in office. And he doesn't question. He's like, I'm right for the job. You know, I'm a cool guy. And he is. You know, and they put him in office. He's got a name like Barack Hussein Obama. And he's black, okay? So he's triggering a lot of people's barely controlled unconscious racism, okay?
Well, also because he's mixed because he's not, you know, technically full-blooded African-American or something like that.
And it's coming out as all this birther stuff and all this kind of stuff, okay? And as a reaction to that gets Trump in here, basically. That's what happened. The people got scared and they were like, oh, I just want a white person who does white shit and who's like, that's what they wanted. That's what MAGA's all about. So they knew this was going to happen though. And this is all part of like some sort of build up towards sort of a helter-skelter like race thing, okay, that is not quite turning out like they want, and I really pray will not at all turn out like they want.
Each side take turns,
you know,
hyping up, being in power, and then trying to show the other side. You know, like, now that and people do tend to, unfortunately, when oppressed, you know, when victimized, really have that, I'm going to make you understand, motherfucker, and now you're going to see how it fucking feels. Which is completely justifiable and understandable, except that then it just keeps the fucking cycle going, man. It really does. And then they, in their jolly, you're going to know how it fucking feels. People go, no, I'm scared again, and now we got to do something desperate. And then they make a desperate act, and then they feel empowered, like, now you fuckers got a shit, and they feel desperate, and then they do a desperate act, and it's just this constant push-pull.
Basically, they deliberately scared people with Bush. Because he was the whole thing with Bush, he was such a joke at the time. He just was so extreme, but it was actually Cheney mostly, apparently. But either way, they were so extreme, and like that it scared the crap out of all the liberals, and it got Barack Obama into office. That scared the crap out of almost everyone else in Middle America. And then we get Trump, and now everybody's scared. Okay, you know? Now we're all fucked because it's liberals against conservatives, and everyone thinks that, like you said, everyone thinks I'm 100% right. It's time for communism. It's time for anarchy. It's time for fascism. You know, fascism, whatever. You know, whatever you're into.
We've got to do something radical and desperate. Why? Why do you have to do something radical and desperate? Things that come are going to come radically fast enough, and believe me, desperation is a big old fish hook that will find a way to sink itself into your mouth.
And really, all of this is just a way of covering up for the central banks failing. That's all this whole thing is in 2020. The repo things fell. The central banks apparently fell because China went to the gold standard. Russia went to the gold standard.
Bitcoin would be where I would have laughed in your face. People were going, you laugh now, see where it goes. People are saying it's all about gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And so, guys, if you got a little extra in there, I'm not saying throw your whole wad in, but definitely get a little gold. More likely not get some silver if you can afford that, which is probably more in your spectrum. And maybe buy a little Bitcoin. I don't know. I've never bought the shit. I have no idea how much you can or can't get, but it would certainly be worth investing at least a little bit of it just to see where it goes. You know, but as you're saying, the markets are slowly phasing away. They're phasing out the petrodollar. They're trying to end the petrochemical dependency cycle, and it's.
And if you don't know what that is, it's just that they made a deal with all oil producing countries had a deal with the U.S. to only receive U.S. dollars for oil. So all countries have to trade with us to get U.S. dollars to buy their oil. This is why, for instance, it's like $10 a gallon in Europe to buy a gas. Okay, for instance, that's our fault.
Like that.
Okay, you know? Yeah, so the whole thing is falling apart. They've been saying, no, we're just going to receive whatever currency we want, not just the dollar. And meanwhile, like I said, China wants to go on a gold standard.
You know, they could push the whole fossil fuel thing like another decade, maybe 2 or 3, 50.
Yeah.
And they just miscalculated, like, oh no, we fucked up, man. It's just we got to bring it down now. It's just, you know what I mean? And,
but again, all this has done is put them. This is now phase 2. Like phase 1, you could say was from 9/11 till now. Now with COVID, we're in phase 2 of the New World Order plan, basically.
And here's another thing to be, you know, conspiracy theory. I was just joking about this with the one guy, but he got really serious about it. You know, okay, man, all I was saying was, hey, you know, from the point of view of people who rule everything and might be just only aimed to really cool down the planet and, you know, I don't want any loss of life or any shit like that, but I'm looking at things, you know, 50, 100, whatever years from now, I got to do what I got to do, time for some harsh measures. You know, smoke and ash are a really good way of cooling down the planet, man. When the volcanoes popped off, it cool temperatures there. It was basically a winter for an entire year, you know, and conveniently, all these fires all over the West Coast are putting out a whole lot of smoke and ash. That's got to drop the temperature a little bit. And he ran with it and said, yeah, that's all they're doing. That's the whole point of the wildfires. There's no other reason for it except to put smoke and ash in the atmosphere. And I was like, A, that wasn't even a topic if I was joking. And B, that just seemed really throwing out the baby with the bathwater. But, okay, man, you run with it. But, again, if there was some other objective, if somebody did want to achieve something by it, you know what I mean? I'm saying, just for, you know, things to chew around, not necessarily swallow. You know what I mean? Taste it a little bit to see if it fits in your mouth or if it tastes nasty. But I can just chuck little things like that out there just as food for thought because, again, it's always good to try and stretch your mind, you know, and look at really illogical, dumb shit. Yeah. Just so you can repeat it, go, no, that makes no sense.
No, you do. You know I highly suggest asking the questions that you think are the silliest questions.
The stupid questions. You know, like,
and just count them off why they can't be true. Okay, but really seriously look at them. Look at them as if they might be true. And, you know, some of them might surprise you.
Well, they're telling you that there are other crab people, you know, that want to take over the fashion industry. And by so doing, you know, by exploiting the Kardashians, you know, open up sinkholes in Siberia. And I mean, yeah, we're all rolling at that, but somewhere somebody is, oh yeah, and they're, you know what I mean, they're typing and they're going to write a 14-page self-essay on the validity of that statement I just cracked down as a joke.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, yeah, again, there's
listen, I do think that we're connected to a universal consciousness, and sometimes, a lot of times, what we write in fiction is based on truth, but just because something's based on truth doesn't mean it's, like, truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, griffins are based on truth because griffins are based on the skeletons of actually pterosaurs, which are like the Triceratops-type dinosaurs. When their little frills would break, it would look like wings, and it actually looks like they have a beak.
There you go.
It looks like they have a little beak on their head, and you know there's eggs, and their skeletons are actually quite near some gold, so it fits all the mythological things. So, like I said, just because there's a grain of truth doesn't mean that it's the truth that you're going to look for. Sometimes it is, though. Sometimes you get some magic, real magic. You know, that's a lot of that's consciousness stuff. Like, we create a lot of what we see. But there are larger beings than us. Always remember that. There are larger beings who guide our experience here, like mentally larger beings. And they, you know, a lot of this that we're experiencing, even this New World Order stuff, is like all calculated for and accounted for and all kinds of stuff. And it's all triggering exactly. People basically corner themselves. You know what I mean? Like the elites who think they're doing the New World Order thing, they're kind of doing, they don't understand they're doing exactly what higher dimensional beings want them to do, and they kind of understand that, but they don't really understand what that fully means. Like they're cornering themselves because their motivations for doing it are really fucked up, and they're letting themselves become horrible by doing it, and it's their own fault, basically. So that's what happens, you know. And they'll get people out eventually, but, like, you can really fuck yourself if you just mindlessly do stuff, like, even for what you think are higher causes. If you're doing evil for a higher cause, be careful, because you might be signing up for, like, thousands and thousands of years of karma, okay? Just to let you know there. Okay, let's play a little more of this.
Think of blowing up the lobby first, then a plane hit the building, then another plane hit the other building. And when I was coming through the doors on the other side of the Trade Center, either they blew the lobby up or something.
A lot of people talk about there being an explosion in the lobby.
I got smoke.
You know.
Everything happened. I just feel a little shook up. I got blasted. You know, I'm just trying to, you know.
I'll go past him a little bit.
The ladies that are with me were in the World Trade Center in the first building and escaped through the lobby, where they report that they believe there was a bomb in the lobby.
We ran down the steps to the lobby. There was no lobby. Everything was torn up, and even the turnstile was burnt and it was sticking up, and they just told us to run. My boys ran out of the office. He said one thing, run. Everybody just ran, and we ran down the stairs. They told us to come back up the stairs, and we were like, come back up the stairs, are you crazy? So we continued down the stairs. We came outside the lobby. There was no lobby. The lobby was totally gone.
Did you see other people?
Yeah, see, a lot of people are saying that the lobby was already blown up. I'm just going to play a few of these here and there, just to keep it a little bit on track. But, like, basically, I came to the conclusion that this was... Also, they were doing a drill. They were doing a drill for if planes flew into the World Trade Center the exact day that it happened. They were doing a drill for the exact thing that happened on the day it happened, and apparently it was enough to confuse people so they didn't react as quickly as they would have. I know for a fact, I've heard audio of Cheney being on the horn with, like, pilots who were trying to shoot down Flight 93 and being told, no, don't do that, you know? And, you know, it's the same exact thing happened on 7/7, although I haven't looked into 7/7 nowhere near as deeply. My understanding is there's some shady elements in that. It's a number they use for emergencies there, and it was something that was a drill that was happening for at the same time that it actually happened. You know, there's some questions about it, basically. And there's questions about all these things. And this is, for the 7/7 thing and the 9/11 thing are interconnected by the bloodline cabal. The bloodline cabal is all the stuff that comes out of Britain, the stuff that seems like the gun control stuff comes out of Britain, okay? And a lot of the shootings were part of that whole cabal thing. You'll see it fade away. It's going to happen for a while because they've been doing it for a while, but you'll see it. I bet you'll see it fade away. I feel that you will. I feel that you will. If the bloodline cabal is actually falling, then I do feel that you will absolutely start seeing the shootings start falling away. Because a lot of that was about gun control. And that's the bloodline cabal trying to assert control. But as I said in another video, another time, and I can show you again, the royals are not coming back to Buckingham Palace, period. Not Queen Elizabeth, not Charles. If he were to become king, nobody's going back there. Her seal is gone. This is like a slow exit for the royal family, you know. And as I said, they're not actually the proper bloodline anyway. They haven't been the proper bloodline for like hundreds of years, basically. And in the bloodline game, it's all about bloodline. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have enough bloodline to be anywhere above the people that they rule over. Okay, just having Rh negative blood doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. A lot of people have it. You know, it's like normal practically. Okay, come on, that's not enough. That's like
there's certain populations that are just like almost 90% Rh negative.
Yeah, it's literally silly at this point. That's why they're slowly exiting this whole thing, and it looks like the bloodline cabal's going down. The other cabals, the German cabal, as I said, but this whole thing is controlled even further up by another bigger entity. And everything that happens, including all this New World Order stuff, is they're playing against themselves and they don't realize. It's all going to backfire on them. It's all going to turn around on them. It's all going to turn around on them, okay? Because first of all, you cannot control people like this. People will not tolerate it. They think they've calculated even for like the riots and stuff. That's what's silly, you know. But they haven't even begun to calculate, you know. The point is we're more peaceful than we would have been if there hadn't been measures taken. Okay, we're better people than we would have been if there hadn't been measures taken. This is a very low point, and they put us as a people under so much pressure. But honestly, just through abortions, I'm sorry to say, a lot of people weren't born into really bad situations that caused them to become bad people.
Economics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true. But it's like the soul can get stuck in situations because it doesn't understand the situation fully, you know, especially new souls. And that's not karma. That's just, it's karma in the sense that your energy matched this situation, but your energy can match a situation, and it can be very, very different from where you came from, you know? And you can get, this world is very deceptive to spirits. They really get stuck here, and they don't understand what's happening. And then people who work here will say, oh, it's karma, and it's this and that. They almost all those people work here. You know?
There's always room for souls. There's always
Yeah.
room for new souls. But again, the newer the soul, the less iterations, the less incarnations it's had.
As a fleshly being.
You know what I mean? Conversely, there's that population that, okay, I've lived many lives, I've lived good lives, I've got my karma. I mean, ideally you want kind of a check and balance between how many people are being born and not how many people are dying, but how many people are dying in a state of enlightenment.
Yeah.
It's because what's going to happen is otherwise you're just going to keep getting newer and newer and newer souls, which is exactly what's happening now. You know, people go, they're not fully thing.
Well,
they go out. But I'm saying then because they are out there, and the people that are still here aren't really feeling that same rhythm. Like, no, you know, we don't. You know, we need to kind of tune into the amount and nature of people in the world, so to speak. It's just like, let me crank one out.
Yeah.
Let me crank one out. Let me crank one out. Because they're not bad people. They're just not enlightened people. Okay. They're not evil. They're just dull. All right. It's not that they're seeking to do harm or trying to fuck shit over. They're really not. They're just like people with blinders on and earphones that can't hear someone screaming at them, hey, dude, there's too many fucking kids and people in the world right now. You know what I mean? We need to kind of level it out a little bit and allow some of those souls to kind of catch up through a few more iterations and journeys and kind of get to the point where they can be enlightened, spread out, and then make room for new souls to kick in. But
this is because there's literally a disease inside of our consciousness, a disease inside the earth.
We're terrified to
and
die.
And
we want to bring a life into, like, that's how I'll live on. If I have children, I won't die. I'll still be alive somehow. Like, well, technically, yes, and you will have a lineage, but if that is the only reason that you're bringing another life in this world so you don't have to feel terrified of passing on, so you feel like your personal lineage is continued, that's a pretty selfish fucking reason. You know what I mean? It really is. As opposed to, no, I just want to bring something in this world and let them experience life, enjoy, and see everything there is for good and bad, and hopefully at the end of the journey, you know, it was worth their while and mine. And I think that's why most people bring, you know, kids into this world. But I say far too many of them, man. Far too many of them were just like accidental.
Well, a lot of places you don't have a choice.
Yeah, and a lot of people are blamed for being an accident. Like, you know, I mean, seriously? Like, you're blaming me because you fucked up? Because you were utterly irresponsible and childish and actually chose to bring a life in this world that you knew damn well you couldn't take care of? It's my fault?
Yeah.
That's a lot of shit. But there's 100 people like that out there, thousands, millions, you know? So, yeah, again, bear in mind that a lot of people you meet were not loved or even wanted or anticipated or accepted, but just basically rejected from birth, you know, and that does a shitload to a soul.
That's what I was saying. Like, there are people who are like, the life that they're presented with, it'll technically fit all the stuff that's right for them, but they have no idea the amount of pain. It's going to be so much worse. They don't understand because they haven't been incarnated or they haven't been incarnated in a long time. But, and because people were able to get, like, teenage girls were able to get abortions, people who were being abused were able to get abortions. We don't have a lot of people who would have been so much worse off.
Pregnant,
you know?
in the first place. I think abortions are horrible.
Listen, I
disgusting.
would not want an abortion. I think literally it's the last thing you should want to do.
Honestly, as horrible as it is, it's gut wrenching. Okay.
Yeah.
If you have ever been around anyone between the ages of 13 to 80 who have lived that entire fucking period from 13 to 80, or whatever point they choose to kill themselves, bow out, or just eventually die from the vagaries of life, okay? If you've never been to Skid Row, if you've never been to a fucking homeless shelter, if you have never seen the amazingly humongous levels of acute human misery and suffering that are out there in this world, then God bless you, you're lucky. And I truly pray you don't have to. But you know what? I have. And I've seen it again and again and again and again. And as a young man, I'm like, no, hope, you know what I mean? And as I got older, I'm like, you know what, man? That's your hope, not theirs. They've never had hope. They'll never know hope. You know what I mean? And me, refuse to admit that these people were born into a world so fucked and so horrible and so hated that there is no hope for them.
And it's not that they don't exist, okay? What happens is, I have a friend who actually this happened to, who lost her baby due to illness, and it was a bad situation. And a few years later, she had another daughter, and I know for a fact it's that same soul. I know it, okay? And this happens all the time. The same souls will come back. They'll come back. They'll come back to be with you. They're not going to leave if they want to be with you. If a soul is meant to be your child, it's going to wait to be your child.
If you're bumming because you've never had a kid and you want children,
it'll even be born to another person and arranged to be adopted in some cases.
You have children waiting for you in heaven, guys. You have your kids are there. You know, I know it's not dumb. Like basically, whether you have them or not, in a certain sense, they're already there. You know, it's whether you choose to bring them into the actual cycle and iteration.
But literally, obviously, the last thing you ever want to do is have it. I'm a big supporter of birth control, of free birth control. I think that everybody should be trained that, like, if you don't just assume you're gonna like ejaculate inside of somebody, that should be another level. You know what I mean? That would help. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would help. It would help.
And on that note, guys, I'm not playing this, you're more or you're less responsible. You're both equally responsible, okay?
Obviously.
But obviously, the man has the potential to complete the act, so to speak. I mean, I pointed out earlier, guys, unlike women, every single orgasm for us is a reproductive act. For women, their orgasm has nothing to do with the reproductive cycle. Not one thing. It is completely and utterly separate and different. It has no relevance. For a man, every time he goes splashy, right, it is literally a reproductive act, okay? So keep that in mind. You know, understand why your body made your body the way it wanted to, right? And then act accordingly. You know what I mean?
But the point is we have better souls than we would have had. We would have had a lot more pain, a lot more suffering. And actually the souls that wanted to be here are here. They're in slightly better situations, a lot of them, okay? And now we don't have this helter-skelter race riots they want. They're flirting with it out there, but it's not happening the way they want.
There's unrest in the streets, but happily, and you know, man, you know, given.
I'm telling you, that was a lot of what Obama was about. Was getting people triggered enough to eventually fight like both sides against each other, and there are people out there doing that. But it's not everybody. It's not even close to everybody, you know? And there's a lot of people who are on everybody's side who are really, really trying.
It's easy to ignore the news. It's also easy to fixate on it. And it's super easy to allow yourself to be given just the stream of what they show you here, which is why I actually like to look at foreign news sources as well as domestic. I mean, I like the BBC. I have for a long time. I feel that whatever, they're still fairly impartial. I've always loved Deutsche Welle, you know, and other news sources, RIT, Italian TV, RITA. And if you guys have a chance and you can pick it up on your YouTube, whatever, yeah, definitely just thumb over and see what stories they're covering. You know, look at even though it's not a group I'm in any way in favor of, Al Jazeera TV actually has some amazing.
They actually do have
really great
good
documentaries that will blow your mind.
The English one has really good news, but like some other places that you might love, China Uncensored.
Yeah, really
I
good show.
love that guy. He's funny, and he tells you a lot of really, really amazing, really good stuff about China. There's a lot of stuff happening in China. We'll do it next week. We'll talk about China.
As you said before, just to caveat it, I have nothing against China or Chinese citizens. I love China.
Oh yeah, the culture.
The culture. I just am not overly fond of the Communist Chinese Party.
Yes,
its practices or policies. Okay. Enough said. Moving on.
Yeah, but like this is something we've been warmed up for. This is like we're about 20 years from 9/11. Now we've got COVID. It's not an accident. This is phase 2. They knew that the central banks were going to fall. They were prepared for it.
There's security weird to me that we're literally only at the bottom half of the screen. There's literally just this giant chunk of our screen, which is just showing like the roof.
Nothing.
And the picture.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna adjust it next time, guys. This is
well,
because I keep saying your comments on it doesn't look as bad to us as it does to you, but yeah, we just look like midgets. This is just ridiculous. So next time, better be.
But like, it's just phase 2. They, like I said, they knew the petrodollar cycle was winding down anyway because oil's winding down. Okay, and everybody's getting mad at us. Russia has never. They're friends with us, but there's some hot feelings still there. Okay.
Honestly, and on some subject, man, I have always been very fond of the Philippine Islands, the Filipino people. Big fan. Great fan of the martial arts. But Duterte, lately, homeboy, you're fucking up. You're fucking up, dude. Really? You're gonna turn your back on your U.S. allies in favor of Winnie the fucking Pooh? Seriously?
Winnie the Pooh.
Seriously? And then that shit about, I was on a jet ski up to the island, and then you can't even swim, motherfucker? Dude, you are coming across like a little bitch.
Like dude. China going on the gold standard.
You are not representing the Filipino people as a man or warrior, okay?
And all the
Don't
other
talk
people.
Shit about running a jet ski if you can't even tread water like a fucking duck.
And all the other oil-bearing countries are just starting to take other things. This is a huge deal for the U.S. currency. Our U.S. currency is based only upon that oil, basically. This is why all this is happening to cover that up.
We banned a gold standard a long time ago. Your money used to be able to be legitimately exchanged in gold. If you really wanted to, you could go to the treasury, like, okay, here's the paper.
It was a long time ago, but it was a good time ago.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I mean, your money is always based on something. Our money is based on oil right now.
Well, and it's credit, basically, because technically your money is valueless in the sense that there's a big other ostensibly government thing that gives you money, but it's actually a privately held company, and they're printing it and giving it to you and charging you fucking interest on it.
That bank is now falling. That bank has had some severe problems. The repo loans fell, and then this is all a cover-up for that, and they know it. They know it. This whole COVID thing is basically covering up the fact that our whole monetary system is dissolving underneath, and they're trying to replace it basically as quickly as possible, from what I understand. And
it'll be interesting to see where the future takes us fiscally. But definitely, guys, not to do that whole like radicalized prepper shit, because apparently that can get you in some hot water these days. But in COVID, I'm sure that as many of us as possible are stocked up on things like food and water and essentials and stuff like that. But also try and think in terms of like what might be something that you yourself don't particularly like. I tell people, man, if you are not a drinker, this is the time for you to buy a shitload of booze, guys. Oh, Calvin, why would I possibly want alcohol? Because the shit hits the fan, dude. It's a great barter.
Yeah, people are going to want it.
And you're not going to want it. You're not going to need it. You're not going to have any danger of using it yourself. Find out cigarettes. Oh, a ton of them, man. I hate cigarettes. You know what I mean? But people like to smoke them. I don't care, especially in the fucking apocalypse. You know what I mean? I'll trade them all day long. Go and stock up on the things you personally don't like, you personally don't want or need or can use, but that others find almost invaluable.
Yeah.
And hang on to some of that shit. Because if God knows if shit is done, it does the fan. Even just a localized way without it being too horrible or too apocalyptic.
It's always good to have a bug-out bag. You never know if there's going to be something.
Well, it's always good to maybe get to know some of your neighbors and be like, hey, man, well, we can't get the store this and that. Well, you're really apparently a guy who likes his beer. Look, I could really use some eggs. You got a hen house. I guess half your shit's sitting up there. Why don't you throw me a bunch of eggs and I'll throw you some freaking vodka or whatever. You know what I mean? Barter can be surprisingly effective in some situations.
Yeah, that's
really
true. Listen, because we don't know what's going to, if I'm reading this right, okay, if there are two cabals, as I understand there are, the Bloodline one's going down, the German one, the Nazi one is through NASA and through the Pentagon. QAnon is through the Pentagon. QAnon would be the German Nazi cabal. And of course, Trump would be far more connected to that. If we're right, and I might not be completely right because I may not have all the information, but if that's correct, then he may think that he can possibly pull off a coup if things don't go his way. I don't think he'll do it. I think that he'll realize he can't because I don't think he can without the enlisted men and without most of the officers. And he doesn't have the enlisted men or most of the officers. But he has the high-up officials in the military, if I'm correct. But I just said I don't think he can really pull it off without without the enlisted men, but he may think he can. I literally am just waiting and watching, because the next step to whatever they're planning, the next step will be coming soon. If things go right, and to be honest, a lot of their stuff does not go right. A lot of times they do fail at things. So don't think that they're infallible.
It's very much like a game of Dungeons and Dragons, where depending on what dice roll you get, there's your outcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They could get half of what they want and decide to put it off for a couple of years and wait. They could get, we don't know.
You can have a +2 magic sword, but homie, if you roll a 1, you're going to trip and fall on it. You know what I mean? That's just the way it rolls.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? There
Yeah.
are certain things that are just kind of inevitable. They're just going to happen no matter what, but the routes and means of getting there are always open to interpretation. So
that's why, listen, we're always going through parallel universes. There's multiple woven worlds. Our own worlds basically are interweaving with each other, and certain points will always match, but like other things get fuzzier. So that's one of the reasons it's so hard to predict the future dates and such, to put dates on things, because once the consciousness knows a date, it'll start to be like, it'll actually start to work to change it, because we're all just so skeptical, deep down we don't. That's my theory anyway. That's what it seems like. And the further out in the future you look, the more less likely it's going to happen.
Like the idea. I mean, everyone kind of understands the concept of like multiple universes,
Yeah.
like DC and all that. But two people think of them as kind of continuously running just parallel. Like I'm in my timeline, and you're in your timeline, and it's the exact opposite. They literally are. They're just constantly interwoven back and forth, almost so seamlessly you can't. And it's only your own personal one, literally, that ever forms its own straight path.
Like your mind is connecting to other people's minds and forming these universes as you go. This is like fifth dimensional
stuff. And if you guys want an example of this, if everyone saw the Rick and Morty episode, he starts splitting time because they're uncertain.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It's not that it's an uncertain variant, it's just a different deciding you.
Yeah.
When a bunch of yous that are yous are all pretty much like, oh yeah, we're all going to get chocolate ice cream today, whatever, and you follow that path. And a bunch of the rest of you just get divergent and go into whatever little interstices you go into, interstitiing with other people's interstices, so to speak. And, that's why the fates have such a fucked job, man, because those poor ladies are just seriously sewing. That's a lot of thread.
Exactly. That's what it really means. And a lot of tangents, you might go off into an alley one day, you die.
That's what I mean?
Like you don't remember it. Maybe you have a nightmare. Oh, I have a nightmare. I had a nightmare somebody killed me. Maybe you died in a parallel universe, those things, there weren't too much of an issue not too long ago, but now with the Mandela effect, that actually is more of a thing. It used to be with the way they had it set up, you would only experience your own timeline. You were pretty limited as to how far your mind could go, to be honest.
There's something watching us happily. There's some kind of big daddy or big mommy and daddy up there, whether you want to call them godlike or alien or alien gods, I don't give a shit at this point. But something's watching us because, by all rights and laws, these people sort of admitted this. First time they went boop with that thing, a whole bunch of dumb shit could have and probably should have gone down that just didn't. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And every single bloop since then, someone's up there, oh God, you know what I mean?
Oh, and there was supposed to be a giant gamma ray burst was supposed to hit the Earth and destroy it. It was coming toward us. Oh, and it magically poofed out of the way. For no reason, and that's apparently really happened, and that has no explanation.
Point is, guys, we'll talk about things that happen here on the Earth and stuff, but just, keep watching the skies.
Exactly. Keep
like
looking up, because that's why they want you to look down. That's part of the point of chemtrails. It's part of the point of your
mentally,
phone.
physically, and spiritually, try to just look upwards, guys.
Exactly. We'll talk a little about 9/11 stuff here and there, but
and we'll try
China next week.
To look a lot less amateurs and Magoo, because this is just sorrowful, man. I really do. I'm running embarrassed.
Yeah. Was glad to have you guys here.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. We know it's kind of an ant show, but again, to all those who have family from 9/11 that they miss or lost, our thoughts and prayers go with you. Regardless of what you do believe, let us acknowledge the sacrifices made by so many that day, whether they're with us now or not. Okay, guys?
Amen.
Thank you. Have an actual good week.
Good night. Good night, guys.
The tower's falling.